The space around the Kepler 442 system was quiet. Too quiet for Admiral Kethra's liking. His massive ship, the Void Stalker, moved through the darkness like a metal mountain. Behind him, 12 other Valthek warships followed in perfect formation. Each ship was over 2 kilometers long and covered in weapons that could destroy entire planets. "Admiral," called Science Officer Veltan from his station, "we have something on our sensors." Kethra turned his large, scaled head toward the display screen. His yellow eyes studied the readings with interest. "What do you see?" "A small ship, sir, about 800 meters long. It's just floating there doing nothing." The Admiral walked to the center of his bridge. His forearms moved as he thought about this discovery. The Valthek had been exploring this part of space for months looking for new worlds to conquer. They had found nothing but empty planets and dead rocks. Now, finally, something interesting. "Is it damaged?" Kethra asked. Veltan checked his instruments. Again. "I don't think so, sir. It has power, basic fusion reactors, simple metal hull. Very old design." "Any life signs?" "Yes, Admiral. About 200 beings inside. Carbon-based. They look like mammals." Kethra smiled, showing his sharp teeth. Another primitive species to add to the Valthek Empire. Over the past 100 years, his people had conquered 47 different alien races. Some had tried to fight back. Others had surrendered quickly. All of them had failed. "Send a message to Fleet Command," he ordered. "Tell them we found another species. Request instructions for first contact." Far away, on the human ship called Soul's Pride, Captain Jiwan sat in his command chair. He was a tall man with dark hair and calm eyes. He wore a simple blue uniform with no fancy decorations. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. "Captain," said Commander Minho, walking up to his chair. "The alien ships are getting closer, 12 of them. Big ones." Jiwan nodded slowly. "How big?" "Each one is about 3 times our size, sir. Lots of weapons, very advanced technology. Are they scanning us?" "Not yet, Captain, but they will soon." Jiwan looked at the main screen. The alien ships looked like giant metal sharks swimming through space. Their hulls were dark and covered with weapon ports. Each ship could probably destroy his entire vessel with one shot, but that was exactly what he wanted them to think. "Chief Sora?" he called to his engineer. "Status report." Chief Engineer Sora was a small woman with quick hands and sharp eyes. She looked up from her console. "All systems ready, Captain. The false readings are in place. To their sensors, we look like a basic exploration ship with simple weapons." "Good. And our real systems?" "Hidden behind the fake bulkheads, sir. They won't find them with a basic scan." "What about Hanbeat?" Sora smiled. "The AI is ready. As soon as they try to scan us deeply, Hanbeat will start working." Hanbeat was the ship's artificial intelligence. It was much more advanced than it appeared. While the aliens scanned the human ship, Hanbeat would scan them back. It would learn everything about their technology, their weapons, and their weaknesses. Lieutenant Daehyun sat at the communication station. He was young, but very good at his job. "Captain, should I try to talk to them?" "Not yet," Jiwan said. "Let them make the first move. We want to see what they do." On the Valthek flagship, Admiral Kethra studied the small human ship. It looked so weak compared to his mighty fleet. The hull was made of simple steel. The weapons were basic projectile launchers. The engines were old fusion designs that his people had stopped using centuries ago. "Veltan, begin a standard scan," he ordered. "Yes, Admiral." The science officer activated the scanning beams. Invisible energy waves reached out from the Void Stalker and touched the human ship. The scan would tell them everything about the vessel, its weapons, its crew, its technology. Captain Jiwan felt his ship shake slightly as the alien scan hit them. "They're scanning us now," he said calmly. "I can see their scan patterns, Chief," Sora reported. "Basic electromagnetic sweeps, nothing too deep yet. Let them see what we want them to see." The human ship's computers began feeding false information to the alien scanners. The scan showed exactly what Captain Jiwan wanted it to show: a simple military vessel with basic weapons and primitive technology. On the Valthek ship, the results came back quickly. "What do you see?" Admiral Kethra asked. "A basic warship, sir," Veltan reported. "Kinetic weapons, simple armor, fusion reactors for power, nothing special. Crew? 200 beings. They call themselves humans. Bipedal mammals, average intelligence, no psychic abilities." Kethra nodded. This was what he expected. Another weak species that thought metal ships and simple weapons made them strong. They had no idea what real power looked like. Any signs of advanced technology? None, Admiral. This appears to be one of their best ships, and it's still centuries behind our oldest designs. The Admiral thought for a moment. "Continue scanning. I want to know everything about them before we make contact." Captain Jiwan watched his displays. As the alien scans grew stronger, the false readings were holding up well. To the aliens, his ship looked like nothing more than a primitive warship with basic weapons. But hidden behind false walls and fake computer systems, the real soul's pride was waking up. Weapons that could tear apart space itself were powering up. Shields that could bend reality were coming online. And most important of all, systems that had been studying alien technology for 50 years were beginning to work. "Captain," Commander Minho said quietly, "are you sure about this plan?" Jiwan smiled slightly. "Minho, how long have humans been in space?" "About 100 years, sir." "And how many alien species have we encountered in that time?" "According to our files, over 800 different types." "That's right. We've been watching, learning, and preparing. These aliens think they found a primitive species. What they really found was a species that has been studying them for decades." Chief Sora looked up from her station. "Captain, they're going deeper. The scan is getting stronger." "Let them," Jiwan said. "The deeper they look, the more we learn about their technology." On the alien ship, Science Officer Veltan was getting confused. The deeper scans were showing strange readings. The human ship appeared to have more systems than the basic scan had revealed. "Admiral," he said slowly, "I'm seeing some unusual energy patterns." "What kind of patterns?" "Hidden power sources, encrypted data systems, and..." Veltan paused, checking his readings again. "There are sections of the ship I can't scan at all." Admiral Kethra moved to look at the display. "Explain." "Some parts of their ship are protected by interference fields. It's like they don't want us to see certain areas. Primitive species don't have that kind of technology." "No, sir. They don't." For the first time since the encounter began, Admiral Kethra felt a small worry in his mind. Something was not right about this situation. "Continue the deep scan," he ordered. "I want to know what they're hiding." Captain Jiwan felt his ship shake again as the alien scan grew even more powerful. This was the moment he had been waiting for, the moment when the aliens would push too hard and discover the truth. "Hanbit is fully active now," Chief Sora reported. "We're scanning them back through their own scan beam." "Good. What are we learning?" "Everything, Captain. Their weapons, their shields, their computer systems. Hanbit is copying all of it." "Lieutenant." Dahyun looked up from his station. "Captain, I'm picking up communications between their ships. They're getting suspicious." "Perfect," Jiwan said. "Let them be suspicious. The more they scan us, the more we scan them." The trap was working exactly as planned. The aliens thought they were studying a primitive human ship. Instead, they were about to discover that the humans had been studying them for much longer than they could imagine. And soon they would learn what it meant to scan a human warship. The alien scan beams hit the soul's pride like invisible hammers. Captain Jiwan sat calmly in his chair, watching the displays as the Valtech pushed deeper into his ship's systems. Each probe was exactly what he had expected. Each attempt to break through his defenses was going according to plan. "Status report," he said quietly. Chief Engineer Sora looked up from her console. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls. "They're through the first layer of security, Captain. Hanbit is feeding them false data about our weapons systems." "What do they think they're seeing?" "Basic railguns, plasma cannon, and fusion. Torpedoes. Standard human military equipment from 50 years ago." Captain Jiwan smiled. The aliens were seeing exactly what he wanted them to see. Old weapons that would make them feel safe, technology that was no threat to their mighty fleet. But, while they looked at fake weapons, something much more important was happening. "Hanbit is active?" he asked. "Very active, sir," Sora replied. "The AI is using their own scan beam to get inside their computers. We're learning everything about their technology." Lieutenant Daehyun turned from his station. "Captain, I'm seeing their ship designs, their weapon specs, even their communication codes. Hanbit is copying all of it. This was the real purpose of the mission, not to fight the aliens but to learn from them. For the past 50 years, humanity had been collecting pieces of alien technology from crashed ships, old battlefields, and abandoned outposts. Each piece had been studied, analyzed, and understood. Now they were getting fresh data directly from an active alien fleet. On the Valthek flagship, Science Officer Veltan was getting more confused by the minute. The human ship kept showing him new things. First it looked simple, then it looked more complex. Now it was showing systems that didn't make sense. "Admiral," he called out, "I'm finding more hidden compartments." Admiral Kethra walked over to the science station. His forearms moved as he studied the display. "What kind of compartments?" "Storage areas behind false walls, computer cores with heavy encryption, and energy signatures that don't match what we saw before." The Admiral's yellow eyes narrowed. Something was wrong here. Primitive species didn't have encryption. They didn't have hidden compartments. They certainly didn't have energy signatures that could hide from Valthek scanners. "How deep can you scan?" he asked. "I can push the scanners to maximum power, sir. But that might damage their ship." "Do it," Kethra ordered. "I want to know what they're hiding." The scan beams grew much stronger. On the human ship, warning lights began flashing as the alien probes pushed against their deeper defenses. "They're increasing power," Commander Minho reported. "The scan is getting very strong." Captain Ji-won nodded. "Let them in. Hanbit, are you ready?" The ship's AI spoke through the communication system. Its voice was calm and electronic. "Ready, Captain. I have already copied their basic ship designs. Now I will get their military secrets." Chief Sora watched her displays with excitement. "Captain, this is amazing. Their technology is more advanced than we thought. But we're learning how it works." "What are you seeing? Their shields don't just stop energy weapons, they actually bend space around their ships. And their weapons don't just shoot energy beams. They can change the laws of physics in small areas." This was exactly what humanity needed to know. For years, human scientists had wondered how the most advanced alien species could build such powerful ships. Now they were getting answers directly from the source. On the alien ship, the deep scan finally broke through the human ship's second layer of security. What Veltan found made his scaled skin go cold. "Admiral," he said in a shaking voice, "you need to see this." Kethra looked at the screen. What he saw there made no sense. The human ship wasn't just carrying basic weapons. Hidden behind false walls were weapon systems that looked familiar. Too familiar. "Those are Valthek designs," he said slowly. "Yes, sir. But they're not exactly the same. They've been changed, improved." The Admiral stared at the display. The humans had somehow gotten hold of Valthek weapon technology, but that was impossible. The Valthek had never fought humans before. They had never even heard of humans before today. "How do they have our weapons?" he asked. Veltan checked his readings again. "I don't know, sir, but it gets worse. I'm also seeing Zephyrian neural disruptors, Etherian quantum mines, and hegemony, phase cannons." Admiral Kethra felt his confidence begin to crack. The human ship was carrying weapons from dozens of different alien species that lived thousands of light years apart, species that had never shared technology with each other. "That's impossible," he said. "Those species don't work together." "No, sir, they don't. But somehow the humans have weapons from all of them." Captain Ji-won watched his tactical display as the alien scan reached deeper into his ship. Soon they would find the really interesting stuff. The stuff that would make them understand what humanity really was. "How are we doing, Hanbit?" he asked. "Excellent progress, Captain," the AI replied. I now have complete specifications for Valthek shield generators, weapon systems, and faster-than-light drives. I am also copying their navigation databases and tactical manuals. Commander Minho looked impressed. All of that from one scan? The Valthek are very confident, Captain G1 explained. They think we're primitive, so they're not protecting their data very well. They have no idea that we're scanning them back. Chief Sora laughed quietly. Captain, Hanbit just copied their entire database of conquered species. We now know about every race the Valthek Empire has ever fought. This was better than G1 had hoped. Not only were they learning about Valthek technology, they were also getting intelligence about dozens of other alien species. Information that would help humanity prepare for future encounters. Lieutenant Daehyun, he said, send a coded message to Fleet Command. Tell them we're getting excellent data. Already done, sir. Command says the other ships are having similar success with their targets. G1 smiled. The Soul's Pride wasn't the only human ship out here. All across this part of space, other human vessels were making contact with different alien fleets. Each one was gathering intelligence. Each one was learning. On the Valthek ship, the scan reached the deepest level of the human vessel's security. What Veltan found there made him stand up from his chair in shock. Admiral, he called out, you have to see this right now. Kethra rushed to the science station. On the screen was a list that made his blood run cold. It was a database. A huge database containing detailed information about hundreds of alien species, including the Valthek. How long have they been watching us? He asked in a whisper. Veltan's hands shook as he read the data. According to this, sir, they've been studying Valthek technology for 37 years. 37 years? But we've never met them before. The database shows wreckage analysis, sir. Debris from our battles with the hegemony worlds. Crashed ships from the Zephyrian War. They've been collecting pieces of our technology for decades. Admiral, Kethra realized that this first contact was not what he had thought. The humans weren't a primitive species that his fleet had accidentally discovered. They were something much more dangerous. They were a species that had been preparing for this meeting for a very long time. Sir, Veltan continued, his voice growing more frightened. The database contains tactical analyses of our weapons, our shields, our ship designs. They know our weaknesses. All of our weaknesses? Yes, sir. And not just ours. They have similar data on 847 different alien species. The Admiral looked at the small human ship on his main screen. It still looked weak and primitive. But now, he knew that was just an act. Inside that simple metal hull was a database that contained the military secrets of half the galaxy. How is that possible? He asked. Before Veltan could answer, the human ship's communication system activated. A calm voice filled the Valthek bridge. This is Captain G1 of the human vessel Soul's Pride, the voice said. Thank you for the detailed scan of your ships. We have learned much about Valthek technology today. Admiral Kethra felt his world turn upside down. The humans had been scanning them back. All this time, while his people thought they were studying a primitive ship, the humans had been studying them. We need to stop the scan, he told Veltan. I'm trying, sir, but I can't. Somehow they've locked onto our scanning beam. As long as we scan them, they scan us. The trap was perfect. The more the Valthek learned about the humans, the more the humans learned about the Valthek, and the humans had been much better prepared for this exchange of information. Captain G1's voice came through the speakers again. We look forward to learning more about your people, Admiral Kethra. This has been a very educational encounter. The Admiral realized with growing horror that the humans somehow knew his name. They knew who he was. They had been prepared for this specific meeting with this specific fleet. This wasn't first contact at all. This was something much more frightening. This was humans showing the galaxy what they could do. The Valthek scan reached the deepest part of the human ship's computer systems. What Science Officer Veltan found there made him step back from his station in complete shock. His hands were shaking as he looked at the data flowing across his screen. Admiral Kethra, he called out, his voice barely a whisper. This is impossible. The Admiral rushed to the science station. What he saw on the display made his 4 hearts stop beating for a moment. It was a complete catalog of alien civilizations, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Each entry was perfectly organized. Species name, home planet, technology level, military strength, psychological profile, and something that made Kethra's blood run cold. Detailed instructions on how to defeat them. "How many species are in this database?" he asked. Veltan's claws clicked nervously on his console. 847 different alien races, sir, including us. Admiral Kethra found the Valthek entry and read it with growing horror. The humans knew everything. Ship designs, weapon specifications, shield frequencies, even the personal combat styles of individual Valthek commanders. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the date on the file. "This information is 37 years old," he said slowly. "How were they studying us 37 years ago?" "According to the records, sir, they collected wreckage from our war with the hegemony worlds. Every piece of debris, every broken ship, every fragment of technology, they found it all and studied it." The Admiral looked at more entries in the database. The humans had done the same thing with dozens of other species. They had found battlefields where aliens fought each other, collected the wreckage, and learned from it. "They're scavengers," he said with disgust. "No, sir," Veltan replied, reading more of the data. "They're much worse than that. Look at this section." On the screen appeared detailed battle plans. Not just any battle plans, specific strategies for fighting Valthek forces. The humans had studied every major Valthek military victory for the past 50 years. They knew how Valthek commanders thought, how they made decisions, how they responded to different threats, and they had developed counter-strategies for all of it. On the human ship, Captain Jiwan watched his screens with satisfaction. The aliens were finally seeing the truth. They were finally understanding what humanity really was. "Hanbit," he said to the ship's AI, "show me what we've learned from their scan." The artificial intelligence displayed the new data on the main screen. "Captain, I have now copied complete technical specifications for all Valthek military systems. Their weapons, shields, engines, and computer systems are no longer secret to us." Commander Minho whistled softly. "That's incredible. We know more about their ships than some of their own engineers probably do." "That's the point," Captain Jiwan explained. "Every time an alien species tries to scan us, we learn everything about them. We've been doing this for decades." Chief Engineer Sora looked up from her station with excitement in her eyes. "Captain, the Valthek use something called dimensional anchor weapons. I've never seen anything like it before. Can we defend against it?" "Already working on it, sir. Hanbit is analyzing their weapon frequencies. We should have countermeasures ready within the hour." This was how humanity had survived in a galaxy full of dangerous aliens. Not by being stronger or faster or smarter, but by being better prepared. Every encounter taught them something new. Every battle made them harder to defeat. Lieutenant Daehyun turned from his communication station. "Captain, I'm receiving coded messages from other human ships in the area. They're all reporting successful intelligence gathering." Jiwan nodded. The Soul's Pride wasn't alone out here. There were dozens of other human vessels scattered throughout this region of space, each one making contact with different alien species. Each one learning, studying, preparing. On the Valthek flagship, Admiral Kethra continued reading the human database with growing fear. The humans hadn't just studied his species, they had studied everyone. "Look at this entry," he told Veltan, pointing at the screen. "The Zephyrian Empire. The humans have complete psychological profiles of every major Zephyrian leader. And here, sir," Veltan added, "detailed analysis of Etherian dimensional technology. Information that took our best scientists 50 years to understand, and the humans figured it out from studying wreckage." The Admiral realized that humanity represented something completely new in the galaxy. Most species developed their own technology through research and experimentation. Some species conquered others and took their technology by force. But humans did something different. They watched other species fight each other, then collected the pieces afterward and learned from everything they found. They're like parasites, Kethra said with disgust. They feed on the knowledge of others. No, sir, Velton corrected, his voice full of fear. They're like viruses. They adapt to everything they encounter, and they become immune to it. Captain Jiwan decided it was time to show the aliens exactly what they were dealing with. He activated the ship's external communication system. Admiral Kethra, his voice filled the Valtech bridge. I hope you're enjoying what you found in our database. The Admiral grabbed his communication device. How do you know my name, human? We've known about you for 15 years, Admiral. You commanded the Valtech Third Fleet during the siege of Altair Prime. You used a rotating shield frequency to defeat the hegemony battlecruisers. It was very clever. Kethra felt ice in his veins. That battle was classified information. Only the highest levels of Valtech Command knew the details of that strategy. We also know about your victory at the Nebula of Sorrows, Captain Jiwan continued, and your defeat of the Zephyrian raiders at the Edgeworlds. We've studied all of your battles, Admiral. We know how you think. Impossible, Kethra whispered. Is it? We've been collecting data about Valtech military operations for 37 years. Every debris field you left behind, every wreckage, side every piece of destroyed technology, we found it all. Chief Sora's voice joined the conversation. We know about your dimensional anchor weapons, your reality warping drives, and your quantum consciousness transfer systems. We've reverse-engineered all of it. Admiral Kethra looked at his science officer with panic in his eyes. Is that possible? Veltan checked his readings. Sir, their ship is showing energy signatures that match our most advanced systems, but the patterns are different. Improved. Improved how? They've taken our technology and made it better, sir. This was humanity's greatest strength. They didn't just copy alien technology. They understood it, improved it, and made it their own. Every species that fought near human space was unknowingly teaching humanity how to defeat them. Captain Jiwan's voice continued. We want you to understand something, Admiral. This isn't first contact. We've been preparing for this meeting for decades. We know about your fleet, your mission, and your orders. That's impossible, Kethra replied, but his voice lacked confidence. Your orders were to explore this sector, identify any new species, and determine if they pose a threat to the Valtech Empire. You were told to use standard scanning procedures to evaluate their technology level. The Admiral felt his world crumble around him. Those were his exact orders, given to him in a sealed briefing just before this mission began. No one outside of Valtech High Command should know about them. How? He asked weakly. Because we've been watching you, Admiral. We've been watching all of you. Every major alien power in this part of the galaxy is known to us. Commander Minho added his voice to the communication. We know about the Valtech Empire's expansion plans. We know about your wars with the hegemony worlds and the Zephyrian raiders. We know about your alliance with the Etherian Collective. We know because we've been collecting intelligence for 50 years, Lieutenant Daehyun said. Every battle you've fought has taught us something new about how you operate. Admiral Kethra realized that everything he thought he knew about this encounter was wrong. The humans weren't a primitive species that his fleet had accidentally discovered. They were a highly advanced civilization that had been tracking Valtech movements for decades. What do you want from us? He asked. Captain Jiwan's answer was simple and terrifying. We want you to understand what you're dealing with, Admiral. Humanity doesn't conquer other species. We don't need to. We simply wait for other species to fight each other, then we learn from the aftermath. Every war in this galaxy makes us stronger, Chief Sora added. Every new technology eventually becomes our technology. Every military strategy eventually becomes our strategy. The Admiral looked at his fleet on the tactical display. 12 of the most powerful warships in the Valtech Empire. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds and defeated countless enemies. But now he realized that every victory his people had won had also been a victory for humanity. Because humans had been watching, learning, and preparing. You've been using us, he said with growing anger. We've been learning from you, Captain Jiwan corrected. Just like we learn from everyone else. The galaxy is full of teachers, Admiral. Most of them just don't realize they're teaching. Science Officer Veltan made one final horrifying discovery. "Admiral," he called out, "the human database contains real-time tactical assessments of our current fleet." "What do you mean?" Admiral Kethra stood frozen on his bridge as the truth crashed down around him. The small human ship that had seemed so weak was actually the center of the most sophisticated trap he had ever seen. Every choice he had made, every decision his fleet had followed, had been predicted and planned for. "Sir," Science Officer Veltan called out, his voice shaking with fear. "I'm detecting new energy signatures around our fleet." "What kind of signatures?" Kethra asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. "Ship signatures, Admiral. Dozens of them. They're all around us." The main display changed to show the space around the Valthek fleet. What had appeared empty just moments before now showed contacts everywhere. Ships that had been hiding behind false energy readings were suddenly visible. Asteroids that weren't asteroids. Background radiation that wasn't radiation. "How many?" the Admiral whispered. 47. "Human ships, sir. All of them have been watching us for hours." Captain G1's voice came through the communication system again, calm and confident. "Admiral, your fleet has been surrounded since you entered this system. We've been tracking your movements for 3 days." "Impossible," Kethra replied. But his voice carried no conviction. "Commander Minho," Captain G1 said on the open channel, "please show the Admiral our preparations." On every screen aboard the Valthek ships, new information appeared. Detailed tactical analyses of each Valthek vessel, weak points in their armor, frequencies that would disrupt their shields, weapon angles that would cause maximum damage. "We know exactly where to hit your ships to disable them quickly," Commander Minho explained. "Your shield generators are located in predictable positions. Your weapon systems have standard cooling cycles. Your engines have specific vulnerabilities that we learned from studying Valthek wreckage." Chief Engineer Sora added her voice to the explanation. "Every human ship in this fleet carries weapons specifically designed to fight Valthek vessels. We've had 37 years to prepare for this meeting." Admiral Kethra looked at his tactical officer. "Can we fight our way out?" The tactical officer checked his displays and his face went pale. "Sir, they have us completely surrounded and their weapons." He paused, checking the readings again. "Their weapons are specifically designed to counter our defenses." "How specifically?" "They're using frequency patterns that will bypass our shields entirely, energy types that our armor can't stop, and they're positioned to hit all of our critical systems at once." Kethra realized that his mighty fleet had walked into a carefully prepared killing ground. Every human ship was in the perfect position to destroy a specific Valthek vessel. The trap was so complete that resistance would be suicide. "This was all planned," he said with growing understanding. Captain G1 confirmed his fear. "Every detail, Admiral. We knew you would find our ship. We knew you would scan us. We knew you would push deeper when you found something interesting. Valthek commanders are very predictable." "How could you know that?" "Because we've studied every major Valthek military operation for the past 50 years. We know how your commanders think, how they make decisions, how they respond to unknown threats." Lieutenant Dae-hyun joined the conversation. "We have psychological profiles of every Valthek officer above the rank of sub-commander. We know their personalities, their tactics, their weaknesses." The Admiral felt sick. "You've been watching us for that long?" "Longer," Captain G1 replied. "We've been preparing for contact with major galactic powers since we first reached space. The Valthek Empire was always going to be one of our primary study targets." Science Officer Veltan made another disturbing discovery. "Admiral, the humans are broadcasting our position to other ships. Thousands of other ships." "What do you mean?" "There's a massive human fleet moving through this entire region of space. The 47 ships around us are just a small part of it." Captain G1's voice carried a note of pride. "The human fleet currently has 40,000 active vessels spread across this galaxy arm. Each one is specialized for contact with different alien species." 40,000? Kethra repeated in shock. "Some are diplomatic ships for peaceful contact. Some are research vessels for studying new species from a distance, And some, like the ships around you now, are designed for situations where aliens might be hostile. Commander Minho continued the explanation. Every major alien power in known space is currently being observed by human ships. We've been mapping galactic civilization for decades. Admiral Kethra's mind raced as he understood the full scope of what he was facing. Humanity wasn't a small, primitive species that had just discovered space travel. They were a massive, highly organized civilization that had been secretly studying the entire galaxy for decades. "How did we never detect you?" he asked. Chief Engineer Sora answered with obvious pride. "Because we're very good at hiding, Admiral. Human ships are designed to look like space debris, asteroids, or background radiation. We've been watching alien civilizations without them knowing we exist. Until now," Captain G1 added. "We're revealing ourselves because we're ready. We've learned everything we need to know about the major galactic powers. Now it's time for formal contact." The Admiral understood that this encounter wasn't just first contact between humans and Valtech. It was humanity announcing its presence to the galaxy. They were stepping out of the shadows where they had been hiding for decades. "What do you want from us?" Kethra asked. "Simple," Captain G1 replied. "We want you to take a message back to the Valtech Empire. Tell your leaders that humanity exists. Tell them that we've been watching and learning, and tell them that we're ready for whatever comes next." "Is that a threat?" "It's information, Admiral. The same kind of information we've been gathering about your people for 37 years. Now you can gather some information about us." Lieutenant Daehyun transmitted new data to the Valtech fleet. "We're sending you basic information about human civilization, population numbers, territory size, technological capabilities. Consider it a gesture of good faith." Admiral Kethra watched the data appear on his screens. What he saw there made him understand that the Valtech Empire had just encountered something unprecedented. Humanity controlled fewer star systems than the Valtech, but their population was enormous. Their industrial capacity was staggering, and their technology was a hybrid of innovations from dozens of different alien species. "You've built a civilization by copying others," he said with disgust. "We've built a civilization by learning from others," Captain G1 corrected. "Every species in this galaxy has contributed something to human knowledge, including yours. And now what? Now you have a choice, Admiral. You can try to fight us, knowing that we've spent decades preparing for that possibility. Or you can return to your space and establish formal diplomatic contact through proper channels," Commander Minho added. "If you choose to fight, remember that we know exactly how Valtech military doctrine works. We know your strategies, your tactics, and your weaknesses. This would not end well for your fleet." Science Officer Veltan looked at his admiral with fear in his eyes. The human ships around them had enough firepower to destroy the entire Valtech fleet in minutes, and they were positioned perfectly to do exactly that. "We could send a message to Valtech High Command," Veltan suggested quietly. "Request reinforcements." Captain G1's voice carried a note of amusement. "Admiral, we've been monitoring Valtech military communications for 20 years. Any message you send will be intercepted and decoded before it reaches your commanders. Besides," Chief Sora added, "reinforcements won't help. We have detailed plans for fighting Valtech fleet formations of any size. The bigger the fleet you send, the more ships we'll position to counter it." Admiral Kethra realized that his empire had encountered something completely outside their experience. They had faced stronger enemies before and defeated them. They had faced more advanced enemies before and outmaneuvered them. But they had never faced an enemy that knew them better than they knew themselves. "This is how humanity fights," he said with growing understanding. "You don't use superior technology or overwhelming force. You use superior knowledge." "Exactly," Captain G1 confirmed. "We know our enemies better than they know themselves, and that makes us very difficult to defeat." The trap was perfect. The Valtech fleet was surrounded, outgunned, and completely understood by an enemy they knew nothing about. Admiral Kethra had walked his ships into a demonstration of human capabilities that would forever change how the galaxy viewed the newcomers from Earth. Now he had to decide whether to test those capabilities or accept the wisdom of retreat. Admiral Kethra stood in the center of his bridge, surrounded by the greatest fleet the Valthek Empire had ever assembled for exploration. 12 massive warships, each one capable of destroying planets. Weapons that could tear holes in space itself. Shields that bent reality to protect their hulls. None of it mattered now. The humans had shown him something that terrified him more than any weapon: complete knowledge. They knew everything about his ships, his weapons, his tactics, and his people. They had turned the Valthek Empire's own strength against them by studying it for decades. "Admiral," Science Officer Veltan said quietly, "what are your orders?" Kethra looked at the tactical display showing 47 human ships positioned perfectly around his fleet. Each one was aimed at critical systems on Valthek vessels. Each one carried weapons specifically designed to destroy Valthek technology. "Open a channel to the human ship," he ordered. Captain Jiwan's image appeared on the main screen. He was a calm-looking human male wearing a simple blue uniform. Behind him, his bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. They looked relaxed, confident, completely in control of the situation. "Admiral," Captain Jiwan said politely, "have you made your decision?" "I have questions first," Kethra replied. "You say you've been studying us for 37 years. Why reveal yourselves now?" "Because we're ready, Admiral. We've learned everything we need to know about the major powers in this galaxy. It's time for humanity to take its place among the stars." Commander Minho stepped forward on the human bridge. "For 50 years we've been the students. Now we're ready to be the teachers." "Teachers?" Kethra asked with confusion. Captain Jiwan smiled slightly. "Every species we've studied has something valuable to contribute. Valthek dimensional technology is very impressive. Zephyrian neural interfaces are fascinating. Etherian quantum manipulation is revolutionary. But all of these technologies have flaws," Chief Engineer Sora added. "Weaknesses that we've identified and corrected. We can teach you how to improve your own inventions." Admiral Kethra felt his understanding of the situation shift again. The humans weren't just threatening his fleet. They were offering to share knowledge. Technology that his people had spent centuries developing, the humans had perfected in decades. "Why would you help us?" "Because cooperation is more profitable than conquest," Captain Jiwan explained. "We've watched dozens of species destroy each other fighting over resources and territory. It's wasteful." Lieutenant Daehyun looked up from his station. "Admiral, we're transmitting improved specifications for your shield generators. Consider it a demonstration of good faith." On the Valthek bridge, displays lit up with technical data that made Science Officer Veltan gasp in amazement. "Admiral, these modifications would increase our shield efficiency by 40%. How is that possible?" "They found a way to eliminate the harmonic resonance that causes power loss in our current design. It's brilliant." Captain Jiwan's voice continued. "We've made similar improvements to technologies from every species we've studied. Sharing knowledge benefits everyone. But there are conditions," Commander Minho added, his voice becoming more serious. "Species that choose cooperation are welcome to join the Galactic Knowledge Exchange. Species that choose conquest will find themselves facing unified opposition." "Admiral." Kethra understood the message. Humanity was offering the galaxy a choice: work together and benefit from shared knowledge, or continue fighting and face a species that knew how to defeat everyone. "And if we refuse both options?" Chief Sora's voice carried a cold certainty. "Then you return to Valthek space knowing that 40,000 human ships are watching your every move. Every battle you fight, every weapon you develop, every strategy you employ, we'll be learning from it all. We'll continue studying you until we know you better than you know yourselves," Captain Jiwan added. "And eventually we'll contact you again. Next time we might not be so patient." The Admiral looked at his tactical officer. "If we tried to fight our way out, what would happen?" The tactical officer checked his displays one more time. "Sir, based on their positioning and weapon specifications, they could disable our entire fleet in approximately 4 minutes. Casualties? Minimal on their side, total on ours." Admiral Kethra made his decision. Signal all ships to power down weapons and prepare for departure. Admiral, Veltan asked, what do we tell Valthek High Command? Kethra thought carefully about his answer. How do you explain to your superiors that you've encountered a species that knows your civilization better than you do? How do you report that the primitive ship you found was actually bait in a trap 50 years in the making? We tell them the truth, he said finally. We've made contact with humanity. They've been studying us for decades. They're offering cooperation or promising consequences. Captain Jiwan's voice came through the speakers one last time. Admiral, we're transmitting coordinates for a neutral meeting station. If the Valthek Empire wants to establish formal diplomatic relations, send representatives there within 30 days. And if we don't, then we'll continue our observations until you're ready. We're very patient, Admiral. We've been watching the galaxy for 50 years. We can watch for 50 more. The human captain's image disappeared from the screen. Around the Valthek fleet, the human ships began to fade from sensors again. Within minutes, they had returned to looking like asteroids and space debris. Only someone who knew exactly what to look for would be able to detect them. But Admiral Kethra knew they were still there. Still watching. Still learning. Navigator, he ordered. Set course for home. Best possible speed. As the Valthek fleet began its journey back to Empire space, Science Officer Veltan made one final scan of the area. The human ship Soul's Pride was still there, sitting calmly in space as if nothing had happened. Admiral, Veltan said quietly, what kind of species studies an entire galaxy for 50 years before making contact? Kethra looked at the human ship one last time before it disappeared from view. The kind that doesn't make mistakes, Veltan. The kind that's prepared for everything. 3 weeks later, Admiral Kethra stood before the Valthek High Council in the capital city of the Empire. The enormous chamber was filled with the most powerful beings in Valthek civilization, military commanders, scientific leaders, political rulers, all of them listening to his report with growing concern. They know everything about us, he concluded. Our weapons, our ships, our strategies, our weaknesses. They've been studying us for longer than most of us have been alive. High Commander Thekval, leader of all Valthek forces, leaned forward in his chair. What do you recommend, Admiral? We go to the meeting, sir. We establish diplomatic contact, and we learn everything we can about them while we still can. You believe they're a threat? Admiral Kethra thought about the 47 ships that had surrounded his fleet. Ships that could have destroyed them all but chose not to. Ships that demonstrated perfect knowledge of Valthek technology while revealing almost nothing about their own capabilities. Sir, he said carefully, I believe they're the most dangerous species this galaxy has ever seen, not because they're aggressive, but because they're prepared. They've spent decades getting ready for contact with every major civilization. They know all of us, but none of us know them. And you recommend cooperation? I recommend survival, sir, because the alternative is facing an enemy that knows exactly how to defeat us while we know nothing about them. High Commander Thekval made the decision that would change the Valthek Empire forever. Send a diplomatic mission to their coordinates, and begin immediate research into human technology and capabilities. Yes, sir. And Admiral, sir, make sure our diplomats understand something very clearly. We're not negotiating from a position of strength. We're negotiating for our survival. Far away in the depths of space, Captain Jiwan received a coded message from Valthek space. The Empire was sending diplomats to the neutral station. They had chosen cooperation over conflict. Another successful contact, Commander Minho observed. Yes, Captain Jiwan agreed. But this is just the beginning. We have 40,000 ships, making similar contacts throughout the galaxy. Some species will choose cooperation. Others will choose conflict. Chief Engineer Sora looked up from her station. And if they choose conflict? Captain G1 smiled grimly. Then they'll discover what happens when you fight a species that's been preparing for war for 50 years. A species that knows your weaknesses better than you do. The Soul's Pride continued its patrol through space, watching, learning, and preparing. In the vast darkness between stars, thousands of other human ships did the same. They were the silent guardians of human space, the patient students of galactic civilization, and the hidden masters of knowledge. The galaxy would never be the same again, because now it knew that someone had been watching all along. Someone who understood every species, every technology, every strength and weakness of galactic civilization, and that someone was humanity. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human influence had begun.